Welcome to the Money GPS. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. This is so important. Let me tell you, I've been covering a lot of what's happening with inflation and what we're seeing with Russia, Ukraine, and all of the ins and outs. But today we reach another level. The first thing I want to talk about is what's going on with the Federal Reserve. They are tightening as we move into a recession. The second thing is the EU banning coal, or at least they're moving towards that. And what does that mean for other commodities like oil and gas? The third thing I want to look at is the financial fallout from all of this. I've got to talk about these serious issues and more. And if you stay until the end, I'll give you something a little humorous. Let's begin right here. Fed's Brainerd seeds balance sheet reduction soon and at a rapid pace. The markets didn't like it, okay? The markets were freaking out because they're saying, uh-oh, we're getting more hawkishness right now from an individual who was at the other end of the spectrum. They're all saying this right now, of course, and as Mark Faber in the interview I just recorded, as well as, all of my subscribers have said, you calling this hawkish? 25 basis points, 50 basis points? They're completely out of their mind. But that's not the point here. We need to look at the direction they're heading and the trend and so on. So this is basically just saying that we are seeing a likely turn to, yet another increase at the next meeting. We will see what happens. This is a quote. We will continue tightening monetary policy methodically through a series of interest rate increases and by starting to reduce the balance sheet at a rapid pace as soon as our May meeting. So you're going to get potentially a 50 basis point hike and the announcement of a balance sheet reduction immediately. Then they'll say, okay, the meeting, this is it, here's the information, and they'll start to cut down on that every single week. They'll probably let that roll off as it happens. Every day they're in the markets with their open market operations. This takes place at the desk, as they call it, which is specifically at the New York Fed. And we will see those actions and activities publicly on their website. Given that the recovery has been considerably stronger and faster than in the previous cycle, I expect the balance sheet to shrink considerably more rapidly than in the previous recovery. More rapidly. The market didn't like it last time. What happened in 2018? Assets were seriously affected by what happened. Okay? Key people from the Fed just spooked the markets. Here's what they said. Brainerd, quote, "It is of paramount importance to get inflation down. Raising rates is what is necessary to ensure that." Again, you go to bed at night, you're not worrying about whether prices will be higher, considerably higher tomorrow, according to the Fed President Daly. So this is what they want to do, that they want to achieve. They want to increase interest rates. They want to reduce the balance sheet. This is, of course, what they're saying, okay? We know what's really going on behind the scenes, at least to some degree. We know their activities are purposely creating a boom and bust cycle, and they do this all the time. They do it over and over and over again. But because it's stretched out over such a long period of time, literally generations, people can't see it unless they look into it on a deeper level, okay? So they actually quote, believe it or not, Paul Volcker, and the gentleman's name escapes me right now, but essentially these central bankers who actually had the strength to increase interest rates and who they made those comments. One of these I had pulled it up, but essentially saying we need to understand that inflation hurts the poor. Inflation hurts the middle class. The inflation doesn't hurt the top 1% and beyond. They will benefit from it. Okay. So even central bankers have said this before. 30-year fixed mortgage crosses 5%. We knew this would happen. Here we are today as these rates continue to increase. But the Federal Reserve themselves, they can't get on the same page. Quote, "It is not valid to interpret inverted term spreads as independent measures of impending recession," according to the Federal Reserve's own research. We know that you look at all these different indicators and they're just indicators, okay? They're not going to tell the whole story. But what does that tell us? That every single time the yield curve inverts, we get a recession that happens afterwards? No, they'll make an excuse each and every time. It doesn't matter, okay? All right. Now, let's talk about the next aspect, and that is what's going on with these higher prices and where does that lead us? Deutsche Bank is the first big bank to forecast a US recession. Now, Deutsche Bank, if you've been on this channel a while, you know what we have to say about Deutsche Bank, but that's besides the point. We no longer see the Fed achieving a soft landing, and instead, we anticipate that a more aggressive tightening of monetary policy will push the economy into a recession. And this is my Money GPS insertion here that's being done on purpose. But let's talk about that a different day. Peru imposes curfew to stimulate protests over rising fuel costs. This is taking place right now in yet another country. Okay? Food riots. All of these different price increases, food, energy, it's going to create a problem. Kazakhstan, where was it after that? Now we have Peru, we had Sri Lanka, there was one more. I've been covering this all throughout. That's in 2022 alone. Multiple countries are up in flames because prices have gone too high, and we've only just begun. I have been saying this all along. I talked about it in my first book, but also in my second book where I put it right on the back cover. I said, soon the earth will rumble under the heels of the angry mobs. And I specifically made that comment inside of the book and said, when the inflation rate goes up and people can't afford their basic necessities, watch out. And we're seeing that today. Global coal prices. Coal, we'll talk about more in a second here. Newcastle coal surged to record highs. You're looking at this right now. This is basically from 2015 into the present, just showing you it is accelerating considerably. Thermal coal exports by country and destination. Looking at this, it's just breaking it down. Indonesia, Australia, and then Russia beyond that. Okay, it's just showing us where they're going to, and you could look at that for yourself. I have way too much to cover. Showing you here EU imports of solid fuel. Okay, Russia right on the top of the list there by far. Although thermal coal isn't nearly as critical for Europe as Russian oil and natural gas is, it's still a big deal. The EU buys more than 45% of its coal from Russia. So think about what happens if suddenly they would decide to ban it. Do you think they could? Oh, maybe they are. German foreign minister says that we have agreed as the EU that we will completely end fossil fuel dependency on Russia, starting with coal. That is bombshell information. Is it going to happen? Not so sure. Not so sure about that. Okay. He also says that it will be followed by oil and then gas. How they are ever going to accomplish this, I don't know. But I'm just bringing you the information. If you appreciate it, hit that thumbs up button. That's how you support the channel. It's right down below. EU proposes ban on Russian coal imports. Ships after these atrocities. Sanctions package to include a ban on most Russian trucks and ships. Bloc will keep discussing how to restrict imports of oil. All of this here happening on a daily basis, new information coming out, and so I want to bring that to you. Poland shuns gas in new energy plan as coal makes a comeback. So we are seeing things that are completely unprecedented historically. We're going away from coal. We're going away from all these different things. And now suddenly they're making a comeback and the prices have gone up as a result. Russian-Ukraine exports span hard commodities, precious metals, agriculture, and rare gases. If you are interested, you can see all the little insights here. This is important, not if you're just an investor and you're looking for that, but for people that just want to know. I'm not going to break it down for you. It's way too much in this chart, but go down in the description under the sources and you can see this for yourself. Things like, sunflower oil and neon. Ukraine, 50% of the world's neon. And why neon is important, I've talked about this multiple times. Neon is used for semiconductors. It is essential to etch in on those semiconductors. And imagine 50% of it coming from Ukraine. What's going to happen to the semiconductors? Oh, we've got an issue. All right. Let's go. next part of this, okay? Russia's economy is beginning to crack as economists forecast sharp contractions. We are seeing right now their PMI for Russia declining into a contraction territory. Excuse me. Look at this. They're forecasting a 10% contraction this year. We'll see what actually happens, okay? Russia's international reserves fall after the war with Ukraine. Look at this. It went down from over $640 billion to now about $605 billion in a matter of what? A month? And then we have this. The United States stopped Russian government on Monday from paying holders of its sovereign debt more than $600 million from reserves held at U.S. banks in a move meant to ratchet up pressure on Moscow and eat into its holdings of dollars. So they are doing everything they can right now to put the squeeze on Russia, and we will see what happens. At the same time, we're watching stocks that have looked real flaky right now. One of those reasons is that the biggest buyer of stock buybacks are experiencing a blackout. So during this period right now, it is just what happens for a little while. We get these blackouts. They're not allowed to do those buybacks. And so as a result, you don't have that big buyer in there, the number one buyer. But, they could come in at a later date, and then, of course, you could see that. But the problem here is that during April, we're supposed to see seasonally probably the best month of the year. Okay, so we'll see what happens, to say the least. Decelerating buybacks. Q1, corporate client buybacks as a percentage of the market cap at a 5-year low. So there isn't as many buybacks as we were supposed to see, let's say. This is according to Bank of America. And what's interesting about this is that this could mean that these companies foresee problems ahead. That's the only reason why buybacks, if the company thinks the stock is going to go down, they're not going to do buybacks. But we'll see. It's still early in the year, of course. Okay, I've got so many more things to cover, but I just thought this was funny. $12 oil? I meant $12 gasoline. This is a funny meme. I just wanted to bring that to you. It's kind of funny because you know what's going on today, the price increases and so on. So I just wanted to bring that to you. You let me know what you think. $12 gasoline? I don't know. I mean, it's just a joke anyway, but hey, anything is possible. Let me know what you think about all of this. The banning of coal, whether it's going to happen, or the banning of any of these other things. And the potential. Just that potential. Do you think it could be intentional to create a crisis, to put people in a state of chaos and maybe have them be subdued if they can't afford basic essentials? Suddenly they become very dependent. You let me know. All right, if you support the channel, hit that thumbs up button. If you like the information, found it informative, hit that like button or thumbs up button. I appreciate that very much. Don't forget to share these videos wherever you can. Okay, lots of information coming out. Don't forget to subscribe as well. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.